Hello everyone, and welcome to the ESSA Title V, Part A and B Program Overview. Today's presenters are Idalia Ibanez. She is the MEP Program Director and the ESSA Title V Part A Coordinator, and myself, Nes Paniagua Jimenez. I'm the MEP Program Coordinator and the Title V Part B Coordinator. And we would like to welcome you, and we hope that you find this session very informative. Thank you. The objectives for our session are the following. Increase awareness and knowledge about the Title V Part A funding transferability, including statute requirements. Understand the flexibility offered through the funding transferability. Increase awareness and knowledge about the Title V Part B REAP. Understand the REAP program areas, Reflexibility, SRSA, and RLIS. And now Idalia Ibanez will cover Title V Part A funding transferability.
The purpose of funding transferability is to allow LEAs the flexibility to target federal funds to the programs and activities that most effectively address the unique needs. LEAs may transfer all or any lesser amounts of funds from the following: Title II Part A, Supporting Effective Instruction State Grants, and Title IV Part A, Student Support and Academic Enrichment Grants, to the following: Title I Part A, Improving Basic Programs Operated by LEAs, Title I Part C, which is Education of Migratory Children, Title I Part D, the Prevention and Intervention Programs for Children and Youth who are neglected, delinquent, or at risk, Title II Part A, Supporting Effective Instruction State Grants, Title III Part A, State Grants for English Language Acquisition and Language Enhancement, Title IV Part A, Student Support and Academic Enrichment Grants, and Title V Part B, Rural Education. The funding transferability option can be found in the ESSA Consolidated Federal Grant Application under PS 3109. Here are some key things to remember about funding transferability. First of all, an LEA must receive an allocation in the current year in order to transfer Title II Part A or Title IV Part A funds into that program. Funds are not physically transferred between fund codes or budget codes. Funds maintain their original fund code, their class object code, and other required accounting code structure, following generally accepted accounting principles. Only the allowable use of funds are redirected to allowable alternative uses. And when a district transfers funds, those funds become funds of the program to which they are transferred and are subject to all the rules and requirements of that program. Transferred funds are subject to the rules and requirements applicable to the funds under the provision to which the funds are transferred. If the LEA transfers funds from a program that provides for the participation of students, teachers, or other educational personnel from private nonprofit schools, LEAs must conduct private school consultation in accordance to Section 8501. How are the funds transferred? The LEA must notify TEA of their intention to implement the flexibility offered through funding transferability by submitting the appropriate schedule in either the ESSA consolidated application or through an amendment. Statute requires that LEAs notify the state of their intention to the use of funds through funding transferability at least 30 days before the transfer takes place. Therefore, the effective date of transfer is 30 days after the stamp-in date of the application or the amendment containing the completed schedule. Here are some other things to consider regarding funding transferability. If an LEA plans to transfer into Title V Part B Subpart 2 RLIS, this flexibility needs to be submitted through an amendment to the ESSA consolidated application after the eligibility for Title V Part B Subpart 2 has been announced. The total fund for funding transferability cannot exceed 100%. The total for both REAP and funding transferability cannot exceed 100%. Now I'd like to share some frequently asked questions regarding funding transferability. The first question is there a limit on the amount of funds an LEA may transfer? No, an LEA may transfer all or a portion of the funds it receives under each of the allowable programs. What are the responsibilities of an LEA for the provisions of equitable services to private school children and teachers with respect to funds being transferred? So excluding Title I Part D and Title V Part B, each program covered by the Transferability Authority is subject to the equitable services requirements under Title I or Title VIII, which may not be waived. Before an LEA may transfer funds from a program subject to equitable services requirements, it must engage in timely and meaningful consultation with appropriate private school officials. With respect to the transferred funds, the LEA must provide private school students and teachers equitable services under the program or programs to which and from which the funds are transferred, based on the total amount of funds available to each program after transfer. May an LEA transfer only those funds that are to be used for equitable services to private school students or teachers? No, an LEA may not transfer funds to a particular program solely to provide equitable services for private school students or teachers. An LEA, after consulting with appropriate private school officials, must provide equitable services to private school students and teachers based on the rules of each program and the total amount of funds available to each program after a transfer. How are funds that an LEA transfers into Title I Part A affected by the LEA set-aside provisions? An LEA must apply the Title I set-aside provisions to funds it transfers to its Title I allocation. Now, Inés Paniagua will provide an overview of the Title V Part B Rural Education Achievement Program, REAP.
Thank you, Dalia, and now I will be going over ESSA Title V Part B. Title V Part B, or the Rural Education Achievement Program, or REAP, is designed to address the unique needs of rural local education agencies that frequently lack the personnel and resources for competing for federal competitive grants and receive formula allocations in amounts too small to be effective in meeting the intended purposes. As you can see, the goal of this program is to provide a level field for LEAs that see additional challenges because of their location or the amount of funds that they receive. The REAP program is divided into three different program areas: Title V Part B Subpart 1, Reflexibility; Title V Part B Subpart 1, Small Rural School Achievement Program, or SRSA; and Title V Part B Subpart 2, or the Rural Low-Income School Program, or RLIS. At this time, we will take a look at the ESSA Title V Part B Subpart 1, Reflexibility, the Alternative Funds Use Authority. ESSA Title V Part B Subpart 1. The purpose of this provision is to allow LEAs the flexibility to target federal funds to the programs and activities that most effectively address the unique needs of localities. Funds are not actually transferred from one program to another. This provision is only allowed for LEAs that are eligible for the SRSA program. Title II Part A and Title IV Part A are the only funds eligible for this flexibility. Reflexibility can be found on the ESSA Consolidated Federal Grant Application under PS 3109. We have provided you a copy of the PS 3109 that can be found on the TA Grant Opportunities webpage under Resources. You will just need to click on Sample Application to access this. Now that we have access to a copy of the PS 3109, we can take a look at what the refunding flexibility looks like. Reflexibility can be found on Part A of PS 3109. As we mentioned before, the applicable fund sources are Title II Part A and Title IV Part A. These funds can be used to complete activities in Title I Part A, Title II Part A, Title III Part A ELA, Title III Part A Immigrant, Title IV Part A, and Title IV Part B. As you can see, the Title II Part A and Title IV Part A sections have been grayed out for the respective funding sources. So let's look at a hypothetical. RIP eligible LEA is allocated $5,000 for Title II Part A. The LEA wants to use Reflexibility to use 50% of their Title II Part A allocated funds to carry out a Title I Part A activity. So in this case, on the PS 3109, the LEA will indicate that they want to use 50% of their Title II Part A funds for Title I Part A. The Title II Part A funds remain in the Title II Part A program budget, but lose their identity as Title II Part A funds and can now be used to carry out Title I Part A activities. Now let's look at another hypothetical question within this question that we asked. Since the LEA used Reflexibility to redirect 50% of their Title II Part A funds, is the LEA still required to implement all of Title II Part A program requirements? And the hypothetical answer is yes. The LEA is still responsible for establishing compliance of all Title II Part A program requirements. Why is that? Because we still have 50% of those funds in Title II Part A. So long we still have funds in there, an LEA is still required to be in compliance for all of Title II Part A program requirements. Now let's look at another hypothetical question. If an LEA used Reflexibility to redirect 100% of their Title II Part A funds, is the LEA still required to implement all Title II Part A program requirements? And the hypothetical answer is, since the LEA transferred 100% of their Title II Part A funds, they are no longer responsible for establishing compliance in Title II Part A program requirements. So, as you can see now, if you transfer 100% of your Title II Part A or Title IV Part A funds to another activity, then in that case you no longer have to be compliant. But if it's anything under 100%, then the LEA will still need to ensure that they are compliant to either Title II Part A or Title IV Part A program requirements. Another resource that is available on the TA Grant Opportunities webpage is the ESSA Consolidated Federal Program Application Schedule Instructions. The PS 3109 schedule instructions can provide you the necessary guidance to complete PS 3109, whether you complete in Part A, which is the REAP, or Part B, which is funding transferability, It also lets you know which LEAs are eligible for which one and what programs can these funds be used for. Another useful resource that can be found on the TA Grant Opportunities webpage is the program guidelines for the ESSA Consolidated Federal Grant Application. The ESSA Consolidated Federal Application Program Guidelines provide all the necessary support and information needed to understand all the federal programs, including Title V. Additionally, Title V Part A includes a comparison table of the reflexibility and the funding transferability. This table provides a summary of what the Title V Part A Subpart 1 Reflex is and what the Title V Part A funding transferability is. Including in this table, it also tells you which LEAs can exercise this authority. We know that all LEAs are eligible for Title V Part A funding transferability, but only SRSA districts are eligible for the Title V Part B Subpart 1 Reflex. This table additionally tells you which funds are eligible for this flexibility. For Title V Part B Subpart 1 Reflex, only Title II Part A and Title IV Part A funds are available for this flexibility. For Title V Part A, funding transferability is Title II Part A and Title IV Part A. ESSA Title V Part B Subpart 1 Small Rural School Achievement Program, SRSA. ESSA Title V Part B Subpart 1 SRSA. SRSA provides rural LEAs with financial assistance to fund initiatives aimed at improving student academic achievement. Additionally, it provides greater flexibility in the use of limited federal resources. For SRSA, applicants do not compete for funds. Applicants are entitled to funds if they meet basic eligibility requirements. Awards are issued annually directly to the eligible LEAs on a formula basis and is administered by the U.S. Department of Education. Under SRSA, LEAs may use the applicable funding to carry out local activities authorized under Title I Part A, Title II Part A, Title III, Title IV Part A, and/or Title IV Part B. This one is unique to SRSA. Eligibility is determined by the USDE based on specific data submitted by TEA. An LEA is eligible to participate in SRSA if either the total number of students in average daily attendance at all of the schools served by the LEA is fewer than 600, or each county in which a school served by the LEA is located has a total population density of fewer than 10 people per square mile, and all of the schools served by the LEA are designated with a school locale code of 41, 42, or 43 as determined by the Secretary of Education, or the LEA is located in an area defined as rural by the state. The LEA application process. The LEA application is released by the USDE in early February and due in mid-April. The USDE shares the LEA application unique link via email with each LEA that is eligible. LEA eligibility is noted on the RIP Master Eligibility Spreadsheet posted on the USDE SRSA Eligibility webpage. ESSA Title V Part B Subpart 2 Rural and Low-Income School Programs, or RLIS. Program Description and Purpose. ESSA Title V Part B Subpart 2 provides rural LEAs with financial assistance to meet local academic needs, has greater flexibility in the use of limited federal resources. Application information. Applicants do not compete for funds. Applicants are entitled to funds if they meet basic eligibility requirements. Awards are issued annually directly to eligible LEAs on a formula basis. It's administered by the Texas Education Agency. Use of funds. LEAs may use the applicable funding to carry out local activities authorized under Title I, Part A, Title II, Part A, Title III, Title IV, Part A, and parental involvement activities. The last one is unique to RLIS. Goals and measurable objectives. LEAs are required to use the applicable funding to carry out local activities authorized under the specified program to increase student academic achievement and/or decrease the dropout rate. Eligibility. Eligibility is determined by the USDE based on specific data submitted by TEA. An LEA is eligible to participate in RLIS if they meet two criteria: they're rural and they're low income. Eligibility criterion 1. Rural. All of the schools served by the LEA are designated with a school locale code of 32, 33, 41, 42, or 43 as determined by the Secretary of Education, or the LEA is located in an area defined as rural by the state. The source for this is the U.S. Census data and the National Center for Education Statistics, NCES. A great resource for RLIS LEAs is the NCES Search for Public Schools online tool. This will help you determine whether or not you have one of the necessary local codes to qualify as rural. So let's take a look at what the NCES Search for Public Schools online tool looks like. So in this case, we're going to use the example of Alfurrias High School. We enter the name of the school in the school name section of the page, and then we click search. Once we do that, it will provide us a page that gives us the information about the specific school, in this case, Alfurrias High School. As you can see, the school details for the 2019-29 school year let us know that this school received a locale of 41, which is rural fringe. Therefore, Alfurrias High School, and in this case Brooks County ISD, would qualify as a rural school. Now let's take a look at the second option to define a district as rural, which is by a state definition. TA classifies Texas public school districts into community types using factors such as enrollment, growth in enrollment, economic status, and proximity to urban areas. These community types, or district types, group districts into 8 categories ranging from major urban to rural. Charter school districts make up a 9th category. TA uses district type classification in reporting and monitoring systems. So what are some of the district types that TA has? They're major urban, major suburban, other central city suburban, independent town, non-metropolitan fast growing, non-metropolitan stable, rural, and charter school district. So what is a rural district according to the state of Texas? A rural district is a district classified as rural if it doesn't meet the criteria for classification in any of the previous subcategories. A rural district has either an enrollment of between 300 and the median district enrollment for the state, and an enrollment growth rate over the past 5 years of less than 20%, or an enrollment of less than 300 students. Eligibility criterion 1 example. In this case, as we were able to see on the previous slide, all of the schools in Brooks County were designated with a school locale code of 41. That means that the LEA is eligible for RLIS. Eligibility criterion 2, low income. 20% or more of the children aged 5 to 17 served by the LEA must be from families with incomes below the poverty line. Please note, the low income rate used by the RLIS eligibility purposes is not the free reduced lunch rates or economically disadvantaged rates reported by the LEAs to TEA. To help us determine low income, we use two different sources. For independent school districts, we use the Small Area Income and Poverty Estimates, or SAIPE, from the U.S. Census data. And for charter schools, we use pages 2 and 3 of the ESSA funding formulas reference manual. Let's look at one of the resources available, the SAIPE interactive tool. In this case, we're going to be looking at a school district. We'll click on that, and it'll give us the option to type the school district that we're looking for. In this case, we're looking for Brooks County. We'll type on that, and that will shorten the list of available districts. We click on Brooks County Independent School District, and then click on OK. Once we do that, it will provide us a page that gives us the rates of poverty for children ages 5 to 17 in families within the school district. As you can see, it gives us the rates from 1999 to 2019. And then we can pinpoint what the rate was for Brooks County for the previous year. In this case, 2018. As you can see, the rate is 49.5% of families, compared to the economically disadvantaged rate of 81.2 that was reported to TEA. That being said, the rate of 49.5 is still above the 20% necessary for Brooks County to qualify into the RLIS program. As we saw on the previous slide, Brooks County has a poverty rate of 49.5%. That is above the 20% requirement for the LEA to qualify for RLIS. Now we can take a look at the eligibility criterion 2, which has to do with charter school information. This information can be found on the ESSA funding formulas reference manual. The manual can provide us a formula for calculating which charter schools can be classified as low income. This formula involves residency district LEAs and receiving district LEAs. LEA application process. The LEA application is released on mid-September and due in mid-November via the TEA eGrants online application system. The TEA Grant Administration Division sends out a new news bulletin when the application is released. LEAs that are eligible to apply are listed on the TEA Entitlements webpage. Please note, LEA eligibility initially comes from the REAP Master Eligibility Spreadsheet posted on the USDE RLIS eligibility webpage. Establishing program compliance. Compliance documentation. Relevant pages of the district and/or campus improvement plan. Program-specific activities implemented to meet the goals 1 and/or 2 as documented on the most current certified submitted version of the Title V Part B Rural and Low-Income School Program Grant Application. Part 2 of the schedule PS 3020 Program Description. As mentioned on the previous slide, the LEA will provide the relevant pages of the district and campus improvement plan that references the sections that list the program-specific activities implemented to meet goals 1 and 2. And this will be done on Part 2 of the schedule PS 3020 Program Description. Now let's take a look at PS 3020. In there, we're going to indicate that we completed the goal 1, which is increased student academic achievement, using the following activities to achieve this goal. Goal 1 was achieved through Title I Part A and Title II Part A activities. Let's continue with our example, and let's now take a look at the district improvement plan to ensure that there is enough information to establish compliance. The district has indicated that they would like to increase student academic achievement on the STAR reading assessment. This includes grades 3 to 8 and end of course by 25%. This is part of Goal 1. Next, we'll take a look at the program-specific activities. In this case, the district spent $5,000 out of their Title II Part A funds and $3,000 from their Title II Part A funds for stipends. Some of the activities that they have listed in their district improvement plan are project-based literacy learning, TICS Analysis Academy, technology integration, differentiated instruction, scaffolding instruction, making content comprehensible. Additionally, the district indicated that they spent $7,500 of their Title V Part B RLIS funds. Now let's take a look at the campus improvement plan for ESSA Elementary. Again, ESSA Elementary has indicated that they will increase student academic achievement on the STAR reading assessment, including grades 3 to 5, by 25%. This is part of Goal 1. Now let's take a look at some of the activities that the campus has completed. They spent $60,000 of their Title I Part A funds purchasing online reading intervention programs, hiring a reading interventionist to work with students failing to meet grade level standards, and purchase reading intervention supplies and materials. Additionally, the campus spent $5,500 of their Title V Part B RLIS funds. This is the RLIS program reference. But what if the LEA is not using Title I Part A or Title II Part A funds for an RLIS activity noted on the DIP or CIP? Therefore, there would not be a specific reference to these programs on the DIP or CIP. Let's take a look at the ESSA Elementary School CIP. Again, they indicate that they will increase student academic achievement, which is part of Goal 1. They indicated the type of program-specific activities, like purchasing an online reading intervention, hiring a reading interventionist, and purchasing reading intervention supplies. And we have to ask ourselves, are these activities Title I Part A or Title II Part A activities? And in this case, yes, they are. They are Title I Part A. The campus also made reference to the RLIS funds used in order to meet this goal. At this time, we can take a look at some frequently asked questions that have to do with the Title V Part B Subpart 2 RLIS program. Question: are RLIS LEA grantees allowed to purchase either with part of or all of their RLIS allocations technology under Title IV, not restricting them to the 15% limit? The answer is yes. RLIS grantees are authorized to use the funds for purposes under Title IV, but are not subject to the restrictions. Question: are RLIS LEA grantees allowed to use funds for any of the statutory reference activities, even if they didn't apply for such funds in the ESSA Consolidated Federal Grant Application? The answer is yes. RLIS grantees are authorized to use the funds for purposes under each of the statutory reference activities, even though they didn't apply for such funds in the ESSA Consolidated Federal Grant Application. Question: Are RLIS LEA grantees allowed to pay for certification exams for teachers seeking initial certification? Answer: yes. Under Section 2103B, activities authorized under Part A of Title II. Question: are RLIS LEA grantees allowed to pay for certification exams for teachers seeking initial certification through an alternative certification program? And the answer again is yes. Under Section 2103B, activities authorized under Part A, Title II. Question: if an LEA uses their SRSA/RLIS funds for Title II Part A and/or Title IV Part A activities, do the prioritization of funds requirements in Title II Part A, ESSA Section 2102B2C, and Title IV Part A, ESSA Section 4106 2A, apply to the LEA when determining how to use their SRSA RLIS funds? And the answer is no. The LEA is not required to meet the prioritization requirements in Title II or Title IV when using its RIP funds for authorized activities under those programs. Dual eligibility. Dual eligibility. Choice of participation provisions. Title V, Part B, Subpart 2, Section 5225. LEAs eligible for both SRSA and RLIS are referred to as dual eligible. Dual eligible LEAs may only receive funding under either SRSA or RLIS grant. Dual eligible LEAs indicate they choose to receive the SRSA grant by applying for SRSA during the application period. If a dual eligible LEA does not submit an SRSA application, the USDE will include the LEA on the list of LEAs to receive RLIS funds. If a dual eligible LEA applies for SRSA and its SRSA formula allocation is 0, the USDE will include that LEA on the list of LEAs to receive RLIS funds. Title V, Part B, 2021-2022, LEA eligibility data and ESSA next steps. At this point, we will look at some of the data regarding the 2021-2022 REAP LEA eligibility data and some of the next steps that districts must follow. So for the 21-22 school year, we have a total of 195 LEAs who are eligible for SRSA, 205 LEAs who are eligible for RLIS, and a total of 220 LEAs are dual eligible. So what are some of the next steps? For SRSA, USDE SRSA application period opened up in February 2021 and the application closed on April 2021. That means that any LEA who was eligible to apply had to have applied by April of this year. Otherwise, if they're dual eligible, and we will talk more about that, they can still apply for RLIS. So what are some of the next steps for RLIS? They need to start the budgetary planning process right now. The application will become available on September 15, 2021, and the application due date is November 16, 2021. So for those LEAs who are eligible for RLIS, right now is an important time to start planning for the school year, to look at their eligibility and start planning for the school year and make sure that they are going to be applying. Again, that application opens on September 1st and it closes on November 16th. Now for the 220 LEAs who are dual eligible, they make a decision based on the SRSA application deadline, which was April 16, 2021. Again, if they were eligible for SRSA, they had to have applied by April 16th. Otherwise, or actually have had an amount that is greater than 0. Otherwise, if they're dual eligible, they can still apply for RLIS funds. Here's the contact information for the Title V program. Didi Garcia is the Title V state coordinator. Idalia Ibanez is the Title V Part A coordinator. And myself, Nes Paniagua, I am the Title V Part B coordinator.